Hello everyone, welcome to episode number 6. Today we're gonna have Max Robinson with us, and as you can see, today we're gonna have a different podcast. I'm just gonna be putting the background. So let me know in the comments what you think about it. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Max.
Hello everybody, thanks for having me JP. So my name's Max Robinson, I'm 23 from the UK. I'm currently based in Virginia tennis coaching.
So today we're gonna be talking a little bit about our experience in the US. As you know, Max was my roommate during college. So I wanna start by asking you, how was your experience when you came to the US for the first time? What are the things that maybe you didn't like that much and things that you actually did ended up liking?
So I've got a fairly funny story coming straight off the plane at RDU. And I was starving after an 8-hour flight. The food was terrible on the plane, obviously. So I get through the security, and first thing I do is I go and try and find some food. So, hey, can I get a cheese toasty? And in a very southern, thick accent was, "What are you saying?" And I was like, yeah. So instantly I was like, oh my God, like really the accents are really, really different. Like obviously on TV you see it, sometimes you don't, but I was actually amazed at how much I stood out and how much their accent was, different to me. And it was just an interesting experience. So straight off the bat, the accents were very interesting, to say the least. And then, driving through back to the college, I guess, up to the college. Sorry, it was amazing to me how there was just nothing. Just you're driving it's about an hour drive, and you just see zero, absolutely nothing, and then just get to Rocky Mount, and I'm like, is this really it? Oh, I was like, no way. I was, I thought, when you go, I'm going to uni in America, like, that's so cool. You think New York, Miami, whatever. But I was in Rocky Mount. And, I was in kind of shock at kind of what I saw visually. I was expecting maybe, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. A pretty barren area, not too much going on. The campus was fairly pretty, I guess, to look at, but the dorms were not great. I knew it may be a struggle to get used to it, but eventually, I completed my degree, I guess, so things went well enough, right? What about you, JP? How did you feel getting off that plane for the first time?
So talking a little bit about the accent, I thought that was funny. Also, when I came to the US for the first time, I actually had a few British friends, and just listening to your accent, it was difficult to understand. It was so different. So I know you're gonna say that. Yeah, in the beginning, actually, it was hard to communicate with you and all the other guys from the UK. So yeah, for me, it was also the first time talking with someone from the UK, but I did think the accent was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But before coming to the US, so when I went to college, my first year, I've never been to the US before. So I did have some expectations, I think, but just from watching movies and things like that, what I came to realize, just like you said, that everything we saw on the TV was live in the big cities, right? And we went to Rocky Mount in North Carolina, and it was a smaller city, so it was also kind of I guess very different compared to what I thought it was gonna be. But in my experience, I thought that it was gonna be great for me to finally live alone. I wanted to have that independency, because especially in Paraguay with my parents, I always had everything. I didn't cook, I didn't make my own bed. So by having to do everything by myself, it was very different, but at the same time, it was exciting. And we're gonna touch on that a little bit more further on, how was our life on campus and off campus. But I wanna know, what are the things that you maybe didn't expect, or maybe that you didn't like, if there was anything like that when you just got off the plane?
So I know this is very small, but so for me, I was confused at how people drove on the road actually. So in England, you can only pass people from the outside lane. So say you're driving on the second lane, there's a car in the third lane that you're going faster than, you legally can't undertake them, so you pass in their blind spot. Whereas here, it was chaos instantly. Everyone just drives at whatever speed they want through, just weaving around people, and that's one thing that, you know, I noticed pretty much straight away, that I thought, you know, the driving is quite unsafe, really. But not, you know, now I'm used to it, and you just have to pay attention more than maybe you would at home. That was one of the first things. I don't know what you think of the driving, but you know, it's different for sure.
So, in my opinion, I thought a lot of things were gonna be different, but I came to realize that a lot of things were the same. I mean, we have very different perspective. I came from South America. You came from Europe, of course. But then, for me, coming, even if I'm coming from Paraguay in South America, I was living in the capital, and just like you said, when we were in Rocky Mount, there were not many things to do, and that was something I definitely didn't expect.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from Paraguay, like when I went to the U.S., I thought there are gonna be so many things that I'm gonna be able to do now, but then I realized there were not many things to do. In fact, there were more things to do in Paraguay, you know?
Yeah, and I'm the same. So with that point of view, for me, I came from a city that went to town. There was 165,000 people, and that's, I think, slightly more than Rocky Mount by, you know, let's just say the same. And back home, you know, I had access to everything that I wanted, even if I didn't have a car. Our public transport in England is pretty solid, so I can get from A to B easily, you know, without my parents, without a car. If I needed to, I'd get the bus to tennis or whatever I had going on. Whereas here, you know, to get off campus, you had to have a car or a friend that had a car. So, and even then, if you were to get off campus, like, where were you going to go? You can go and eat, but that gets pretty boring pretty quickly because there's only a certain amount of restaurants you want to go to. You know, there's a pool, snooker, sports bar that's pretty terrible. That I remember walking in there and pretty quickly turned around. But just activities in Rocky Mount, there's just not much to do. And and now living in Virginia near DC, I don't know whether it's my personality growing up on the coast that, you know, I was able to just go and do things like going to the beach or just hanging around with friends, but I don't think it's the same here because of how big the country is. It doesn't feel like you can just pop out and do something pretty quick. You know, it has to be really organised for something to really, you know, happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit, like, compare our daily life in for you in the UK and for me in Paraguay. And I thought when I got there for the first time in the U.S., like in Paraguay, I was never in my house. I always had something to do.
Right.
It was either go and play tennis, go and be with my friend, go to someone's house. However, being in the U.S. was like prison when we were on campus, right?
100%.
There was nothing to do. It was always just, it was such a big change, just being in the same place every single day that it felt like prison.
100% agree with that. And now looking back on it, any freshman that I talked to from North Carolina Wesleyan, I advise them, get a car as soon as you can, because it is prison-like, and I got myself into trouble with, the drinking policies, which we'll go into later on, but just you feel like you can't do anything. It's just a repetition, It feels like it's always a Monday. I don't know why. That's how I feel, I don't know whether you feel the same, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our daily life was basically, every day was the same. It was just waking up, going to class, have lunch, go to practice, and then go back and maybe play some video games, do homework or whatever. And
right.
It was repeat
right,
every single day.
Right.
Then at some point, you come to realize, man, I need a car if I want to do something else, right?
Right, 100%. Yeah, I agree. And, halfway through, to be honest, my experience on campus, I felt that prison-like, and it's almost like I wanted to escape. And, this was my first semester, and I was like, I want to go home. Like, I miss just being able to do something. So I actually spent a period of a couple of weeks to a month really just chatting with people about, their experience back in the UK at university compared to what I was experiencing in the US. And I was jealous of what they were doing, to be honest. However, I know now that I made the right choice staying in the US and staying at the uni, but I had doubts for sure about staying there. And I communicated with seniors and things like that on the team as to, asking them questions, does it get better if you live off campus and things like that, which, again, we're going to talk about in more detail. But, it was tough. It really was tough, to be honest.
Yeah. So I always compare it a little bit with high school. Why? Because when I think about high school, I always thought, man, I miss it. It was such a great time. But then when you were going to class, when you were in high school, it was like, man, I don't want to go. But when I think about our first year, I am like, damn, I miss being with everyone. We were always all together and stuff like that. But then I know I'll go back for maybe only a week, But
right.
After that week, it's going to be like prison again.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But like, I think I mentioned this to you the other day. It was something like, our brain thinks, we want what we can't have. So
Right.
just to throw a little kind of funny circumstance, I mean, so it's Sunday today as we're recording this, and, I'm hungry and I want Chick-fil-A. And I know a few people might laugh at that, but, if you asked me yesterday, did I want it? No. It's because Sundays it's closed, and it's just appealing to the mind, like, I want it because I can't get it. And that's what, that's what it kind of feels like, I guess, taking that first year again feels like, oh yeah, it'd be great to do that. But then when you're actually there, it's like, oh, it's not that great. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree.